everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for this important conversation. Today, we are exploring the IE University Multimedia Collection. IE University partnered with Ivey Publishing in 2024 to bring multimedia learning to our global audiences. There are over 80 multimedia products available, and today we will focus on the deep learning product and how to align its content with your course learning objective. With that, let me introduce my colleague, Maria Galicia, an account specialist in our business development team here at Ivey Publishing. Maria, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Thank you. Thank you, Adriana, for the handing over. Welcome, everybody, to our webinar, and where we're going to show a little bit of the wonderful things that IE University does in the multimedia area. 1 second, please. So let's get started for a minute. Let me share my screen. Yes, perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a walk around our platform and how we are able to locate the IE University products that we have currently. For this webinar, as you know, we're going to focus on deep learning, and that's going to be the product that I'm going to be sharing and walking through for this purpose. But as you can see, we have many more, and you're going to be able to see the collection that we hold. So the first part would be I'm directly in our platform, and so let's go to, you can see our collections, but let's go to browse our collection. And give it a second. Give it a second. And you're going to see everything that we have going on in Ivey Publishing. So I want to go and focus a little bit more of our attention in the filters on our left side. And I'm going to click on collections, and I'm going to click in IE University, as you can see here. And just going to go a little bit further, that you are able to select multimedia here in product category. And that is where you're going to be able to see our products. In this case, we're going to be focusing on deep learning. And so the spine of the case method is to force students for understanding and going into the decision-making opportunities that the workforce has. And this is done by making them use their knowledge that it is acquired and their skills that they have, and putting everything together to come to a conclusion. Materials like the one that IE is showing us today help the students bring that conclusion to life and help them walk through different conversations and different types of skills and round up their skills as needed. The university, through their multimedia learning cases, is taking the next step in enhancing the learning experience. With their immersive digital experience design, students can walk through complex cases and concepts at their own pace, or a group as well, and have checkpoints for students to test their understanding of concepts through the simulation or experience. And our colleagues, Andrea and Lili, will be able to walk us through that specific part once we get to the product. Now, as we're already in the platform, I just want to show you really quick how you can see this, but the first step that we have to do is log in as an educator, because that way you will be able to do all the wonderful things that I'm going to showcase. So if you don't have an educator account, this is a good moment to register with us, so you can see all the collection that we have, and especially our IE products. So now, as we're logged in, we have seen on the left that we have all our filters, and now we are on the product page. And I want to take a little bit of a moment to walk through the product page to show you what features we have. So you're going to be able to see here the length, the estimated length of this product. And you're going to be seeing a little bit of a synopsis about what the product is. In this case, we're talking about deep learning, and we're talking about machine learning that has revolutionized the AI, the way AI is being used in businesses across a range of disciplines. As we know, AI is the topic of the moment, so this is very important. Next, you're going to see the learning objectives, and this is the part where, as a facilitator, you are able to understand how is this product constructed, what are the intentions behind this product, and see if it matches with the objectives that you want to achieve in your syllabus, in your courses. This is a good moment where this is a good spot to look when you're building up your course planning for the year, for the semester, depending how it works. You can also see here at the top, you can see a preview of the product. And then you're going to be able to add it to a course pack. The reason why you have to add it to a course pack is because that's the only way that you can share it with your students. And I want to walk you through that in a second. In this case, we're going to talk about deep learning. After completing the tutorial, the students will understand the what is deep learning and how does it works and its challenges. And we can go back to the learning objectives, has 3 learning objectives, and you can also reach out to any of our representatives, myself, Adriana, and we can give you also suggestions on how other products can work with at your different needs, depending on what course are you teaching. So let me go to a course pack, because this is the only way that we can share this information. Now I have a course pack that I have made. Actually, I have a couple of course packs that I have made for the purpose of this demonstration. So I just want to quickly stop here and I can show you that when you create a course pack, there's a series of details that you have to fill up. And when we talk about institution pay, it means that the institution where you are going to teach takes care of the payment of the materials. But we also have here student pay, which means in this case, if your institution is directly sharing the opportunities, the links with the students for the payment. You have course start, course end date. If you have any student instructions, you can put them here. You can put in your name, what level, and the expected enrollment number. And you have also the program end. And then once this is all here, you can start adding your products, and you're going to see this thing here, and you're going to be able to type and all this information is going to come out. So as you can see, this is the way how we add to course packs. My apologies. So let's go quickly to one that I have already done for you guys. So as you can see here, this one is already done, and I have here added deep learning. So when this is done and I have added to my course pack, I need to click on finalize, and that is how I can share it with my students or a link. And this is what I'm going to click here so you can see it. So as you can see here, you're going to be able to get the link to the course pack that you have to share with your students. And you're also going to be able to get the instructions. So when you click here and send the instructions, it's going to send you the instructions as a facilitator. And you can either decide to forward that email or paste it in your LMS with the link, however it works better for you. And this is also where it's going to tell you if you have shared this course pack with other faculty or students, and this also gives you the opportunity to collaborate with other faculty members who may want to get some input on your course back. Very important to mention that any changes can be made before you finalize it. Once the course back is finalized, there cannot be any changes. So we just recommend that you take a second look to all this information before you send the final link, and then you'll be good to go. So far, so good. Great. I think the questions are open as well, so let us know if you have any questions in the meantime. And I'll hand it over to our lovely colleagues in IE so they can show us directly from the hand of the creators deep learning.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Maria. And hello, everyone. Let me share my screen because we prepared a presentation for you. Okay. So,
Andrea, we just have an audio issue. We can't hear you.
no? Okay. Can't you hear me right now? Yeah, you hear me? Okay.
Andrea, we cannot hear you. Sorry.
No? Okay.
You can? Okay, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Yeah? Okay. Yes. Okay. Great. So now I'm going to share the screen. Okay. I think it's fine. Okay. So I would like to start asking you a question, and it is if any of these situations sound familiar to you. If you have ever experienced, for example, students who haven't read the assignment, or that they complain that it was too long, or you realize that they split or divided the readings into among the group, so they just read a small part of the assignment, or also students that are asking for more practical application of what they learn. So I guess that this sound familiar to you, and maybe you experience any of these, or perhaps all of them. And that's why at a university we've been observing this trend for quite some time. I mean, we know that students are looking for more engaging and practical learning experience, and also more connected with the real world. And these uh, traditional formats like reading or reading cases no longer meet this expectation. That's why we started developing multimedia materials, multimedia learning materials, because we see that they increase the motivation of the students, and what is more important, the learning outcomes. So we would like to start by explaining what is a multimedia learning material. Okay, so what is a multimedia learning material? It's a learning material that takes advantage of technology to let the students not just receive the information, but also interact with it, because it includes a series of elements that helps the students to visualize the information, but also to understand complex concepts. Let me walk you through some of these elements that we use at I University in our multimedia materials. So, for example, we have a video and audio. these videos, sometimes we use actors to tell a story, or they are enriched videos with graphs or animations and these kind of things uh, to to help understand the content. Also, we have videos with a professor who is directly explaining the concept. We also use interactive graphs, timelines, where the students explore the data. They click on the elements and they get the information on their own path. The decision trees, where they have to make choices and choose between different options, and they see the consequences. It's very common that we use gamification strategies, which means we include like challenges, small challenges, or rewards, any kind of game element that motivate the student and engage it in the learning process. Other thing is the role playing. The role playing is a very important element because with that the student empathize with the story, with the dilemma that we propose, with the story, and like this they can put themselves in the situation and make a decision in a more conscious way. And of course, what's very important, we have practical exercises where they can test their knowledge, what they learned so far, and yeah, related to that one with the exercises, they can get an immediate feedback from and see at the moment if they know if they know the lesson of they need to keep working on it. Okay. We also would like to mention the benefits of this kind of material. So there's a lot of reason. I'm gonna mention six of them, and six reasons why they are so effective for the students. First of all, I would like to mention the practical application. The practical application, because the students connect the theory to real world. I mean, they can apply what they've learning. They learn a concept connected to a real situation. Also, we have the active learning, or the participatory learning, because they participate at class, they make choices, they learn from the consequences, and also this kind of materials stimulate the debate at class, and we find it very beneficial. Also, the development of analytical skills. Um, Many of these activities require interpreting data or analyze situations or dilemmas. They have to justify their choices, evaluate different options. So it's related to that. Also, of course, we have interactivity because, like I said before, they have to click on different elements to get the information. So that interaction keeps them motivated and engaged to the in the learning process, and they are the levels or of attention are higher. Of course, we have the variety of formats. These materials are very flexible and can be adapted to different ways of teaching and learning, and to different class model, for example, online or face to face, or even hybrid models, because they are very flexible. And the last one that I mentioned before, and is very important, is that students can get immediate feedback. They don't have to wait until the next session or next class to see if they need to keep working on certain topic or certain area. They practice, they do an exercise, and they see if they're wrong or they're right, and that's very important. Now I'm gonna show you. I would like to share with you just a few samples of the multimedia materials that we develop at IE. First of all, I want to mention that we have two types of multimedia materials. First of all, the interactive case studies. As you know, the case study present a realistic business situation, and where the students need to reflect and analyze to find a solution to a certain problem and make decisions. And usually we develop these kind of resources in collaboration with companies. And for example, we have this one with Infosys about their sustainability strategy. Another example is Porsche and their market their market strategy, or IKEA and the global brand communication they developed. On the other hand, we have the tutorials, the interactive tutorials. These resources are focused on a theoretical understanding of a specific topic, and they're very useful because they can be used as a preparation of the course, like class preparation, or even a post session as review to review the key concepts, or in class, or like a self tool of self study. Examples of this kind of material. So we have, for example, this one, effective communication for leadership, that talks about oral and persuasive communication and language. We have the human component of going digital that explains the importance of soft skills in the digital transformation. And another example is deep learning, that talks about this subcategory of machine learning. And Lili, my colleague Lili, will show you more in detail this material and walk you through all the components and elements that it has. So we will also share a link of this material on the chat. So like this, you will be able to browse the material at your own pace. And before this session, you will have the material available for 1 month. And so you will have time to see it on detail. And also, I think it's going to be useful for you because you can see how is the experience of your students. You will see that it's very straightforward. It's just a link, so you can share the link with your students, and that's it. You don't have to download or install anything on in your computer, and so you're gonna see the real experience, the same experience as your students. So that being said, I would like to introduce my colleague Lili Valentine. I think this is gonna be the most impactful part of the webinar, because Lili is the lead instructional designer at IE Digital Learning. Lili, she works closely with the faculty to design online learning materials with a strong focus on storytelling and creating meaningful connections with learner. She led important projects of the department, such as the deep learning or Modarre, a quest to restore sustainability and reimagine fashion. So thank you, Lili, for being here today with us. And I'll let you share your screen to showcase the deep learning case.
Yes, thank you, Andrea. Can you guys hear me okay?
Okay, so I want to do a quick pulse check. I know we have a lot of professors here, so go ahead and raise your hand just with the Zoom feature if you teach in an information systems or broadly speaking tech area. So that might be artificial intelligence, data analytics, big data, anything of that nature. So if you're teaching in that space, I'll give you a moment to just raise your hand. I see we have a few people raising their hands now. Thank you for responding. I see people are raising their hands. This tutorial will be really great for you because it is directly tied to your subject matter. As you probably guessed, deep learning is a subset of machine learning, right? So a subset of AI, and this is going to be a really great tool for specifically those of you. However, if you don't teach within this space, seeing kind of how a tutorial works and discussing best practices for including these multimedia materials in your practice will also be really beneficial, even if you don't teach in this space. So I'll go ahead and share. Oh, it looks like I don't have the option to share my screen. Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh. Hold on a second. I think I'm sharing the wrong. Hold on, I'm having a little bit. Okay, let's find. Okay, here we go. All right, so now you should be seeing a picture of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which you'll see is directly relevant to the tutorial itself. So here is the cover page of the tutorial. Andrea, if you can please, if you haven't already, send the tutorial link to everyone. So everyone, please, I encourage you to follow along with me, okay? And we can field questions and answer them in the chat. So this is what students are going to see in the deep learning homepage for this material. So they go ahead and enter, and the first thing they're going to see is this video. So here is where the kind of storytelling expertise that we have and that we're very proud of comes into play. I apologize, due to technical issues, we're not able to share the audio of this video, but I'm going to go ahead and play it. And you might be able to get an idea of why I previously shared the screen about Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Because as you'll see as we watch a few seconds of this video, this introductory video titled Welcome to Deep Learnia is leveraging storytelling with a direct reference to Ferris Bueller's Day Off to address a boring classroom lecture. I think we've all been in them, and I think our students would readily complain about them. Our tutorial is in direct juxtaposition to this. This is what the tutorial is not going to be, okay? So instead of hearing a professor drone on deep learning, students are going to have a much more active and interactive learning experience. Now, in this video, our protagonist is whisked away to the land of deep learnia, again, adding this layer of storytelling in which the student, along with our protagonist, is whisked off to this magical realm called deep learnia, where things are broken down into easy to understand chunks, making this information, which can be daunting and complex, making it more accessible for our students. Okay, so I'll stop the video here. So that's the first thing that students see. And we think this is a really powerful hook. Okay, so students will obviously scroll down and they get the basics. They know exactly what deep learning is starting from scratch. So who is this tutorial appropriate for? It's appropriate for students who have a background in AI or related fields, but you want to make sure as an instructor that all of your students are getting the same foundational background info. So it's good for the technical people, but it's also good for the students who have never seen AI or taken an AI course in their life. So this is really meant to start from scratch, but building learners so that by the time they come to your classroom, you know they're on the same page. Now, I will address a question that we realize has come up before the webinar. Instructors might be asking, when do I use this? How do I use this? The vast majority of our multimedia materials, be it a tutorial like this one or a case study that is usually about a business, are meant to be assigned before class. They are meant for students to consume on their own before class. They're relatively short, these materials. So we're talking between an hour and an hour and 30 minutes. That way you can make the most of your class time, knowing that students have already done this homework, if you will. Later on in the session, we'll discuss a little bit more about best practices to ensure that the students and you are getting the most out of this material, to make sure you're getting the most out of your face-to-face class time. So this is not meant to be done in class as a general recommendation. Okay, so students, going back to the tutorial itself, students get this text. They get a visual, which for our experts here in the session, we'll see that this represents an artificial neural network, a key component, or really a key part of the definition of deep learning. Then we go down here and we see an interactive diagram. Hopefully by now you're seeing the varied content formats. We have a video with an animation, we have a text, we have an image, we have an interactive diagram. And we think that students really respond well to this, okay? Here you have a visual representation of what deep learning is, lodged in the broader context of other types of AI subsets, right? So now students immediately get to assess their understanding. This is a really important part of our multimedia materials, as Andrea was speaking about earlier, immediate feedback. So what do I mean? First of all, in the case of this tutorial, we're greeted by Lili, who's our friendly companion. Another level of this storytelling where we want students to feel accompanied, like they have a companion on this learning journey in this world of deep learning. So Lili greets us with this short message, and we as a students have to put our learning to the test right away. You know, our learners are often anxious. They want to be able to do stuff. So here's their chance. So imagine I'm a learner who hasn't read anything, and I'm just going to guess randomly these questions, okay? I'm going to submit, and these are going to be wrong. So Lili doesn't like that. Lili glows orange and kind of wiggles around. So hopefully, as a student, you'd like to retry. Now, here's something that we find very valuable about this tutorial, this option level feedback, okay? Students get something wrong, and they're told why. And this is supposed to help them find the right answer, right? So if this student answered that artificial neural networks are built with only hidden layers, but this feedback clarifies that ANNs require an input layer and an output layer, they should be able to start putting 2 and 2 together to get the right answer without it directly being handed to them. Okay, so hopefully the student will get to the right answer, as well as here, where again that option level feedback provided for each level, each item in the answer option it was crafted specifically by the professor. So here I'm gonna make sure I get the right answer. Why is deep learning deep? Because it uses artificial neural networks with multiple hidden layers. I'm gonna hit submit. I got it right. Lili's happy. He's jumping up and down. Now I have to say this feedback for the correct response is quite lean here. It only says this is correct, but that's not the case for the majority of the feedback for the correct answers. Because even if a student got something right, sometimes they want to know why, especially if they guessed, right? So there's that positive reinforcement and that level of clarity about why they got something right. So this is the case for all of these checks for understanding throughout the tutorial, which is this case of immediate feedback. Okay, so let's keep on scrolling through this first layer of deep learning. And again, I'll play a video. Bear in mind, the audio will not work, but here you'll see another video format. This is the professor of the case, whose name is Constantina Valentine. She's a professor here in our information systems area. So here she is welcoming us to deep learning. You can see how all the details have been cared for. She's actually set in a background in deep learning, and now she's going to give short bite-sized mini lectures, okay? No more than 5 minutes. We know the attention span of our students. So these short lectures are accompanied by powerful slides that serve as visual aids, okay? And what Professor Valentine is doing here is kind of clarifying what students have already seen, but in this video format to really solidify their understanding. So we have a few more of these lecture style videos from Professor Valentine. We jump to this, which should be familiar, this issue of CAPTCHAs, where many of us are often asked to prove that we're not robots and how that relates to deep learning. So a real world visual and example. And here we have yet another content format, no, Lili, we're not there yet. So we have this interactive yes/no flow chart where students get to respond to something that might be similar to something they might see on Instagram or on social media, but where they can actually answer questions and see responses that directly relate to the kind of technology they're working with every day. So how does deep learning relate to Face ID? How does it relate to understanding of text? So natural language processing and things like that. And there is a little bit of humor injected. Obviously, I'm moving through this quickly, but just trying to give you a sense of all the different content formats we have here. So yet another check for understanding. This is about active learning. We're not just having students here consuming information passively. Okay, and now we are now passing to another region within the metaphorical realm of deep learning, which corresponds to another section of content. In this case, focusing on how deep learning has revolutionized machine learning. Please also note the devil is in the design details, where each realm of deep learning, which corresponds to a content section, has different visual design. And we think this promotes engagement as well as memory, helping students remember where exactly they saw different pieces of content as they're recalling and engaging with the information. So here we have 2 short videos, another quick check for understanding that I'm just going to scroll through. And now we're getting to our section on ethics and AI. It's not a coincidence that this river is dividing into 2, a metaphorical crossroads, if you will, when we deal with ethics and the difficult issues that arise with ethics and AI. So another text, another video, a relevant example related to Amazon, okay? And here we have this fun survey that asks students what they think. Okay, and this was actually inspired off something I saw in a museum exhibit here in Madrid about 2 years ago, and I thought it would be fun to integrate into the multimedia. So here it asks students what they think, and they could answer, of course. So I'll go ahead and give some sample answers. And the student submits, and they see their response compared to what other students responded, according to a survey administered by the author of this material. So students get to assert their opinion, which I think a lot of us like to do, while also seeing what others think, which may or may not be surprising to students. Okay, so we have another check for understanding, and now we're moving into this other region on infrastructure and big tech. So here we have another sort of content type when it comes to pop-ups. So here students can click on these pop-ups to get better information about these sort of logistical and infrastructural requirements regarding deep learning. Another check for understanding, which is present in every single checkpoint, so every single section, with that option level feedback, as I mentioned. Here we have a section on natural language processing, so that's NLP. And here's a relevant example related to smartphone use and what many of us, including students, will see when we're typing and how deep learning makes predictive text features possible. So continuing to scroll pretty quickly, just to give you guys this full picture. And the final section is the next AI frontier. So something that comes up a lot for all of us is, okay, you know, what are we doing about sustainability when it comes to AI, and what does the future look like? So here we address that as a closing. And again, we have this level of pop-ups, a check for understanding, and then finally a test your knowledge at the end. So this is 15 multiple choice questions that students will respond as an assessment of their learning throughout the tutorial, all automatically graded with that same option level feedback that students can do continuously as much as they'd like to. And the tutorial closes there with a final greeting from Lili saying that we hope you've come away with deeper understanding of deep learning. So this is the deep learning tutorial, but in some sense representative of a lot of our multimedia materials when it comes to interactivity, design, and storytelling. So I'll pause there because that was the key demo of deep learning, but I'd like to open it to questions or just a moment of reflection for anything that might have come up as I did that tutorial. I don't know if there are any questions that may have come up on the chat.
Hi, yes, there was one from an attendee. Okay, so are these the multimedia products ready to use and developed material to use for relevant courses, Or can we use your platform to create our own multimedia material and modules for our specific courses?
That's a good question. And so the answer is that the materials are done and ready to use in this link format. However, we work with professors on creating this content. And it can be a process that's usually a few months long. And we do that with our professors. So we're often meeting with professors who are experts in certain subject areas that we want to develop materials in, but it's not immediately available for the general public or for any professor to just go and create a material.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. The other ones we sort of answered as well, but I think some participants were wondering about, I know we're focusing on deep learning right now, but are there some other examples of multimedia or that focus on other aspects of AI that involve gamification? Putting you on the spot, you don't have to answer now, but if
we use gamification as a tool in our learning design. We don't have a material. So I realize there might be two layers to this question. We don't have a material that focuses on gamification as a topic. Rather, we use gamification as a tool to meet in other content areas to discuss other topics, right? So we have simulations and games, which is kind of a different category from these, because those simulations and games can be used in class as opposed to this kind of material, which we recommend be assigned pre-class. There is when we leverage gamification to boost that engagement. But in these kinds of tutorials, usually we're not seeing that same level of gamification. It's just not that kind of product. We see those more with our simulation.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you for that. And I know you spoke to this a little bit, but if someone were trying to align their learning objectives for this specific type of learning, what would you suggest? I know you mentioned before prior to class, you would have them read this, but so this is meant to be asynchronous and et cetera. And how, like, the advantage of taking this multimedia tutorial prior to coming to class would be that they already have a leg up in their learning, and they already know all the concepts before you can actually discuss perhaps maybe a case study in class. Like, how does that look?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and Andrea and I were actually planning to answer that in our own Q&A. So this is going to, as professors, assigning this kind of high quality content prior to class is going to allow professors and instructors to really maximize class time and go deeper than they would if they would not have assigned this. So also here, as a professor, that all your students, granted that they've done the homework, which I know is another philosophical debate, but you can know that all of your students are coming with the same foundational knowledge. So even that student who has a background in tech and that student who has no idea what deep learning is, after completing this tutorial, they can at least use common terms when coming to class. Then you as a professor can go deeper into one of these content areas in your class session, okay? So what we often do in some of our case studies, so not with exactly this deep learning tutorial, but with some of our other case studies, students can respond to questions within the case study and download their responses on a PDF, okay? They can then bring that PDF with their responses to class in preparation for a class discussion. Some professors, depending on how trusting or not they are, ask students to submit that to them prior to class as homework, which might even be graded. This allows professors who maybe have students that are less engaged or struggling to make sure that they're actually being held accountable to completing this pre-work, if you will. Other professors, instead of grading it, might just want to see what questions learners had and what they'd like to see more of or what they want to understand better. So imagine if you as a professor assign this before class and require that all students, before coming to class, but after completing this tutorial, send you a reflection or something that you want to learn more about in class because you're interested in it or because you were confused. The professor can get those student responses after the students see this tutorial, see if there are any common patterns like, hey, students are really confused about this, or students are really interested in learning more about this and plan their face-to-face session accordingly. So you can really maximize that class time. You can also group students accordingly to those who might have similar interests or concerns to really get the most out of that face-to-face class time, reducing the need for lecturing and making that class time almost more like a flipped classroom approach, making it more dynamic.
Wonderful. Thank you for that thorough answer. And I know you mentioned you also had some further Q&A. So if you'd like to address those now, we'll give it back to you.
Yes, we prepare a short interview. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. So, well, I think that now you can see. But yeah, I have some questions for Lili, and the first one is: what advice would you give to a university professor who wants to start using multimedia cases or multimedia materials in their teaching?
Okay, so I realize some of you, and let me kind of take a moment to read the room again. How many of you, just using that hand feature, have used multimedia materials like this one in your classes or in your teaching? So I'll give people a moment to respond to that. Okay. I'll give a moment for answers to come in. Okay, I'm not seeing many hands. So I'm realizing that many of us may have never used these kinds of materials. So first of all, I would recommend do your homework. What does do your homework mean? On Ivey Publishing's website, as well as ours, usually there is a thorough description of the material. In the case of our materials, there is a teaching note. This teaching note is essential for instructors who are considering using the material. The teaching note is just that. It's a guide to support you in teaching when using this material. It tells you how you should use it. So back to my response to the question before about when do I use this? Is this a material for before class? Is this for during class? That teaching note will outline that, okay? And give you even suggested discussion questions or suggestions for organizing your class accordingly. So do your homework so you really know what the material's goals are and how it fits into your teaching. But also don't overwhelm yourself. If you've never used multimedia materials in your class before, take it easy. Do your homework, but maybe pick one that looks really good to you and start there and adapt it to your own teaching style.
Yes. Okay, so next question is: what do you think are the benefits for instructor and learners of including multimedia cases into coursework? Can you be specific and give examples?
So I tried to address this as I was discussing the deep learning tutorial itself, as well as responding to Adriana's question. To kind of summarize that, the benefits for instructors are that you're going to get more out of your class time. It's going to be more dynamic and more active because you're not going to need to lecture, and you can even harness data or feedback that you get from students after they complete the tutorial to plan your session. And learners respond very well to these multimedia materials. I've said this before, many of us, we know our learners, we know how they're consuming, how many of them, including us, are consuming information in short chunks, in multimedia chunks. And what I've seen and what many of our professors here have seen is that students appreciate these materials because they reflect how they are often consuming information and content in their personal life. So students really appreciate when they get assigned a material like this, by and large, rather than a more traditional PDF or text-based material.
Mm-hmm. Great. So let's see. The third question is: from your experience as an instructional designer, what are the key elements that make a multimedia case truly effective?
This one I know off the top of my head because we talk about this all the time. So I like these sort of three pillars. Storytelling. We all love a good story. It's memorable. We can follow it. We're like wired to love stories. Immersive design. We find that this level of visual design makes the learning experience memorable. And interactivity. Students want more from us than just a passive learning experience. They want to be able to do, they want to be able to act, they want to be able to even self-assess. So those three elements, immersive design, interactivity, and storytelling, I think really make multimedia cases and tutorials really effective. But then I know that the next question that we have planned is sort of an important addition to my response to this question. So
let's see.
Let's see.
The next question. How do you ensure that a multimedia material is not only visually appealing, but also effective from a learning perspective?
So I just talked about all these sexy elements, right? The immersive design, the storytelling, and the interactivity. But those three things are not impactful, or they don't work like we want them to, if the instructional design and content aren't there. If the subject matter expert isn't giving meaningful content and the instructional designer isn't shaping that content meaningfully, then those three, sexy elements aren't going to have the impact that we want. So for learning a material to be effective from a learning perspective, we need strong learning objectives. We need well-organized material with scaffolding. We need appropriate feedback so that learners are getting feedback in real time. We need the instructional design and content really down and really solid for the other things to fall into place.
Well, so thank you. I don't know if we have five more minutes. Correct me if I'm wrong, Maria. So I don't know if we have any questions on the chat, or we can use these 5 minutes to talk about a little bit on how we create multimedia cases.
No, I think that's all from our end. So if you'd like to use that time.
It would be lovely if you could share that with us.
Okay. So I'm gonna let Lili explain this process, since she worked on that. So I'm sure she's gonna explain it perfectly and very clear for our audience.
Yes. So in our design process, we come up with a definition, and this has to be very clear when it comes to working with our professors. So again, we need that content piece when in terms of instructional design, and our content from the subject matter expert or professor, and then we can get really creative with how we bring that content to life. So that's where we get the conceptualization and storyboard phase, and then we go into production, which means we work with an external web provider to produce the material, which then goes into a quality control to make sure that everything's working, and we release the material to students.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess that's all from our side. So if we have some more minutes for Q&A for the audience.
We have a couple of questions here, if you don't mind. One of them is this multimedia case relevant to business study courses?
Absolutely. So IE, which stands for Instituto de Empresa, which I realized some people brought up in the chat, is originally a business school. So the majority of our materials are created for business-oriented subject matter. So a lot of marketing materials, accounting materials, strategy. So we find that these work really well, especially since many cases are about businesses or companies and their business challenges. So we highly encourage professors who are in business areas to use multimedia cases in their coursework. Even deep learning, although it comes from the tech side of things in terms of content, it is used with our business students as well, because AI is just so important these days that even business students who aren't specialists need this content.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to everybody attending. We want to thank Andrea and Lili from Ivey University. Hope you had a great time as we did. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, and thank you for this wonderful demonstration alongside with us. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Adriana, myself. We'll be more than happy to help you select a product that fits your needs. And we'll be more than happy to demonstrate a couple of IE multimedia products if that's what you decide. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you at the next webinar.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody. Have a nice day.